Field. I'm an old bankruptcy lawyer in Auburn, California, and I want to answer a question that gets asked a lot of me by folks that are feeling a terrible amount of guilt and shame perhaps about not being able to pay all their bills and being forced into a bankruptcy. A lot of times people ask me, when I get back on my feet, I'd like to repay all of these bills, or I'd like to repay the one loan from my best friend Sam, or I'd like to repay the one loan that I got from my parents. Would it be okay? Or I want to pay back the bank. Would it be okay after all this is over, the bankruptcy and all the debts are discharged and the bankruptcy's over, would it be okay for me to go back and pay these bills off if I get back on my feet financially? Of course it would. Even though the debt is legally discharged in the bankruptcy, that is, that you are discharged from the legal obligation to repay the debt, there is no law, there's nothing that makes it illegal for you to choose to go back later and pay some or all or even only one of those debts back. I do have some precautionary legal advice though. The precautionary advice is, if you decide that you're going to pay back one or more or even all of the debts that were discharged in the bankruptcy, just be careful about how you do it, because the recommended way to do it is to wait until you've saved up enough money to pay off one of the debts in full, and then go to that creditor and pay that debt off in full. And you can pay them off one by one that way. But don't go back to creditors and say, hey, now I'm back on my feet, I've decided that I want to pay you off, and I want to start making payments. So I owe you $2,000 and I want to start paying you $100 a month or $50 or $200 a month until I have the debt paid off. That is a very bad idea, because as soon as you begin to make payments on a debt that was at one time legally discharged in bankruptcy, as soon as you begin to make payments on that, you have reaffirmed the entire amount of the debt. So suppose you make 5 payments to the guy you owe $2,000 to, you make 5 payments of $100 a month, and then you lose your job or you have a terrible illness and you still owe them $1,500. Mind you, that was a $2,000 debt that was completely discharged. Your legal obligation to pay it was wiped out in bankruptcy. Only now you reaffirmed it by making those payments, and you owe that creditor another $1,500, and they now have the legal right to sue you for the $1,500 because you reaffirmed the entire amount of the debt. So don't do it that way. Don't go back to a creditor and offer to make small payments and make payments to a creditor over time. Simply set the money aside in a bank account or somewhere else and save it up until you have enough money to pay off a debt in full. Then go back to the creditor, pay the debt off in full, and if you want to, you can repay the debts that have been discharged in a bankruptcy, and there's no law against that. In fact, there are many people who have become so successful financially after a bankruptcy that they have gone back and repaid all of the debts. One other thing that you might think about is, if you do go back and repay a debt that's been discharged in bankruptcy, you might ask that creditor to report that to the credit reporting agencies so that it helps to rehabilitate your credit rating after you have filed a bankruptcy. If you do have to file a bankruptcy, God bless you and good luck.